Today I'm going to show you what the 15 mistakes that adult beginners make when learning to play the guitar online, what their consequences are and their causes, so you can avoid them. I'm Ian O'Brien from The Guitar Process, and I'm here to share with you what I've learned through mentoring over 900 beginners between 50 and 80 years old to confidently play their favourite songs on the guitar. Our first set of mistakes are based around what's actually happening while you're practicing. So mistake number one is placing your fingers individually and separately down during a chord change. You'll see this specifically with chord changes like a G to a C. If this mistake is happening, what's likely to be going on is that the first finger moves first, places itself down, and then you move your second finger, places down, and then the third. So we've taken what is one swift move with all of the fingers and the hand working as a whole together. We broke it down into 3 individual stages. So this is really going to slow down your chord change. It's going to take away the smoothness and the connection of your playing. So what we really want to do instead is have each finger moving at the same time, the hand working as a whole, and placing themselves down at the same time. You'll see this again with a chord like a G chord as well. Are you placing what's happening on the thinner strings down, and then from there using that as a bit of a anchor to then position your other fingers down, breaking your chord change into 2 movements? If that's happening, instead we want one movement with placing them down. That's going to allow you to change much more smoothly, to train the fingers and the hand to move as one. Second mistake, around the same area, the changes between chords, is having breaks or gaps in your strumming when you change chords. So this is about having really the fretting hand being in charge or leading what you're doing during these times. And it kind of sounds a bit like this. A little gap there. So this hand is pausing for a moment. There's an interruption to the flow of the music so you can get your chord change in. Instead, it's this hand that we want to be kind of leading what we're doing. So it's strumming continually all the way, just plowing through, and this hand has to jump in time and fit in that space so that we've got changes that are more like this. Instead of that gap. Which are pretty noticeable. Mistake number 3 is really about the strumming hand and the rhythm of what we're playing. It comes from not actually feeling the pulse and feeling the rhythm of the music, and it manifests in us thinking about the direction of the strumming, so the downs and the up arrows, and having them in the sequence we want them, but not having them in the actual musical timing of what we want them. And this will come out if we're playing something like we're thinking of a rhythm and we've got a down, down, up, down, up, down, down. Okay, so just a random rhythm, but there's a problem fundamentally with that rhythm there. There's no underlying consistent musical pulse of what I just did. Every strum I did is actually evenly spaced in time. So whether it's a down or up, we had a down, down, up, down, so on. They were all evenly spaced. So they would all technically be kind of on the pulse of the music. And we know there's a problem there if our down strums and our up strums are falling onto our main beats and our pulse of the music. Obviously most music has just 4 beats in the bar. So what we really want to do is with our 4 main pulses of the bar, we want to have our down strums lined up with those so that the spaces in between the pulses, the up beat or the and, is where our up strums are sliding in. So rather than having a rhythm that is down, 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 up, down, up, it would actually sound like down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. So we've got the four main pulses of the bar, we've got down strums on them, our up strums are actually in between. If we're counting a number and we're doing an up strum at the same time, we're making this mistake. And then mistake number 4 is not learning or keeping your learning within the sweet spot. And this changes depending on the individual. It changes where you are with your learning. It changes what the material is. It changes what you're actually trying to do, what your objectives are. What I mean by this is you might be picking up something and practicing it and spending time doing it that is either too advanced, it's too complicated, too sophisticated. It's got stuff going on in it that are skills that we would need to learn before we actually learn putting them all together. So sort of prerequisite skills or foundational skills. We're trying to do them all at the same time. The feeling is one of overwhelm. It's a song that's going to be frustrating to do, and it's going to take a real long time to crack that. So that would be out of the sweet spot of learning for you. The other side of it is picking up and learning stuff that is actually too easy. It's stuff that you can comfortably do. You know all the mechanics of it, you know the chords, you know the changes. Not just know them, but you can actually do them. It's too straightforward for you. It's not going to challenge you. Maybe we're going to lose interest with what we're doing. We're certainly not going to move forward in terms of development. To be in that sweet spot is really about being in the between those two things, and it's about the techniques we're practicing at any given time, the kind of chords, the kind of rhythms, kind of coordination between the two hands as well. And it's about our choices of songs. We want to continually stay in a sweet spot so that what we're doing is accomplishable. You get that sense of satisfaction, you know you're moving forward, and then we pick the next challenge that's also in our sweet spot of learning. If instead we're picking stuff that we're not going to be able to do because there's stuff that we need to do in order to get there first, or the hand needs to be conditioned, the chords are too advanced, it's going to be frustrating, we're not going to enjoy it, we're going to be jumping around looking for something else to play, and we're going to start putting the guitar down. So it's really important that your learning at any given time is in the sweet spot for you. Mistake number 5, really connected to the sweet spot stuff, is what I call butterfly learning. And you'll recognize this if it's something you've done or something you do on a regular basis. You've picked something up to have a go at. You spend a little bit of time having a go at it, and then you think, oh, there's something else. I'll have a go at that for a little while. So maybe I'll have a go at this song and see how it goes. Then, oh, there's another one. I'll have a go at this song and see how it goes. I'll have a go at this rhythm. I'll have a go at this particular chord change. Maybe I'll have a look at learning like a little bit of theory or trying to develop how I hear music. We're moving around all the time. A little bit of like trying to make sense of how music is written down or something like that. And it's a butterfly. We're going from one thing, staying there for just a little bit of time, then we're going for another thing, we're going for another thing, we're going for another thing. There's not consistent progress there. We're jumping. And if we're honest with ourselves, it's really likely that we do our jump, our kind of flying onto the next thing at the point where what we're trying to do feels hard or feels frustrating. And then number 6 is really staying or being held at just the surface of guitar playing. And this happens if we're going from, a video lesson to a video lesson, or they could be songs, one song to the next song to the next song. What happens here is when we're learning this way, it keeps us just on the surface of our learning, okay? It keeps us just focused on kind of mechanical stuff and the mechanics of playing guitar at the expense of deeper learning, at the expense of real musicality. Things like the feel of what you're playing, the use of the dynamics, your expression of what you're playing, and the emotion of the music we're trying to feel and really communicate. If you're ultimately really interested in stuff like singing and playing at the same time, staying in this just song lesson, video lesson, it's not going to get us there. There's not going to be a point where we can magically just sing and play at the same time if we're just focused on this surface level stuff. And the same thing applies with things like confidence. If you really want to have the confidence to pick up the guitar, play a song to just family or friends. You know, I'm not talking about like doing gigs or on stage or anything like that. Just to show somebody a song when they say, they take an interest in your guitar playing. Say, can you show me something? If you want to have the confidence to be able to do that and be confident with what you're playing and for it to hold together and feel good and sound good, it's not going to happen if we're just, you know, going from lesson to lesson like this. One of the symptoms I notice with that is if the idea of you listening to a song, Spotify or in the car, on the radio or anything like that, hearing it, having an idea of what's happening in that song by listening to it, and being able to pick up the guitar, figure out what's happening, and learn the song and play the song from listening to it, if that feels like an intimidating level of musicality, the likelihood is you are just at this surface kind of level of guitar playing. And it's not something that happens just with people who've picked up the guitar in the first few days. This is something that happens with people who've been picking up the guitar for months or even years. This kind of real learning needs to happen at a level that's deeper than just the mechanics. And then this next set of mistakes, they're actually upstream from the mistakes we were just talking about. They're actually upstream from all of the stuff that happens with your hands in the moment on the guitar as you're practicing. They impact them, they can cause them, and they're actually the roots of this stuff lies in this set of mistakes, which is upstream, and they're all mistakes that come from the teaching itself. Number 7 is mistaking being shown something for being taught something. And this isn't unique to online lessons. This is something that happens all the time in sort of local lessons with a tutor. And the real problem here, or the way we can spot this, is that the communication is really flowing just in one direction. There's no listening and seeing what's happening with your hands and your fingers on the guitar, and then adjusting that communication, adjusting the teaching, the demonstrating, the different methodologies based on what's happening for you with your hands and fingers. You're shown a perfect kind of version. You're watching somebody who can do this thing, do it. And then it's like, okay, how are you going to do that? Is it just that you have to imitate them? Yeah, there's no real adjusting or the communication, like slowing down the pacing, focusing on a different aspect of it, and so that it's at the pace that's right for you even, or communicated in a way that absolutely makes sense. And the way that, you know, it's known whether it completely makes sense to you is whether you're able to do it as you're being shown it. And if there's no, you know, the communication, the teaching, let's say, isn't being adjusted in accordance with what's happening for you with your hands and fingers on your guitar, it's going to be not just a frustrating experience, but it's a pretty slow road. For learning to be effective, it really needs to be personalized, and connected to that is, of course, number 8, not having any diagnosis of the root causes of the challenges you're facing on the guitar. There's no sort of bespoke approach to not just diagnose what's happening, dig in and see what's happening with your hands and fingers, know what the root cause of it is, and the actual thing that's missing in relation to that is then to break it down and coach you through the stages and steps of development to be able to do the thing we were trying to do. I'm not talking about just trying to play a song over and over again. I'm talking about building the prerequisite skills and filling in the gaps of what we need to be able to do to actually play the song, rather than just going at it, which, as you know, can be a frustrating experience. A good example of this is with a student of mine, Steve, who was working on playing Tequila Sunrise, and particularly the opening of it. And so with Steve doing this, the first thing is that his playing kind of lacked flow. It didn't come together. He wasn't happy with the way it sounded. There was some kind of snagging on the strings with the plectrum that was kind of stifling the smoothness and the connection of the playing. So just on the surface level, that was snagging in terms of the way it was being strummed. And on a surface level, we first just looked at the mechanics of it. How are you holding the pick? Have we got it just with one finger and the thumb, etc.? How is it positioned? Does it allow to have give? What's the thickness? Stuff like that. And from there, it was about balancing the mechanism for strumming. And when we strum, it's always a balance of the movement of the elbow, but not on its own. The movement of the elbow in relation to how the wrist needs to move, and we get them working together as a whole. We can just be all elbow, or we can be really just wrist. But really expressive playing, really effective playing without snagging and stuff like that is somewhere on that spectrum. It's neither hard on one side or hard on the other, and they have different roles depending on the feel that we want to give. So we developed the mechanism with Steve, get his wrist moving nice and smoothly, get the elbow involved as well for the power to start to undo the snagging, and it improved the sound of what we were doing to some degree. But it wasn't exactly what we were looking for. It wasn't what Steve was looking for. It wasn't super expressive. And so the next thing we needed to look at, now we had the mechanism in place, was the actual width of the strumming. Steve was strumming quite a narrow arc. It wasn't too wide with what he was doing. So we just focused on the width of the strumming, giving it like a wider arc to kind of have follow through as we're strumming to come nicely slicing through all the strings. We started doing that, a wider strum, and it was working to some degree, but we were a couple of layers deep in what's happening here, and it still wasn't exactly what we were looking for with the music. And so I started asking Steve. I noticed that when he was playing relatively quietly. And so I started asking him about this, like how does it feel when you're playing like this? What number out of 10 would you say you're playing in terms of volume, in terms of intensity? And so we started experimenting with different stuff. Okay, let's play this as a 10. Like, what is extremely loud in your eyes? Let's play it like that to get the whole thing flowing and moving forward. And so we did that. What would you say is a really quiet way of strumming, shifting between it? What's like a nice mid-tempo? And what we kind of discovered through this kind of exploration and guidance is that what Steve thought was really loud, Steve's idea of like really going for it, was pretty quiet. And that sounds kind of weird because, is it about our hearing, especially with the age of the people I work with? They're between 50 and 80. I've got a number of students who wear different like hearing aids and stuff like that, and and their hearing starts to change over time and get less defined and things. So was it around the hearing, stuff like that? So we started talking about it, ask a few questions, and what it actually came to, what Steve was feeling when he was playing, and what was holding him down at this quiet level, which was stifling the flow, even though the technique of the mechanism was really, really good now, was that he was always, it brought him back to being a kid. He was hearing the voices of his parents telling him that, kids are like to be seen and not heard, and that, it's sort of an adult space to talk, and they should do what he's doing quietly and not interrupt the adults and stuff like that. And it was really like something he'd carried with him his whole life, and a lot of people do. It's weird that like the amount of stuff it's just still in there. And so all we needed to do really is look at the whole picture, the cause of why this was happening, and for Steve to just know that when he thinks he's playing really loud, he's not playing that loud. And it was just about almost having permission to like kick out the jams and give it proper welly, and know that the reason why he's holding himself back, and just gave him permission to kick it out. And all we needed to do is address this issue, how he felt about it, bring up the volume, and the whole thing just clicked into place. We didn't need to be focusing necessarily on the mechanics of it. Like, the highest point of leverage was at the root. And this isn't what we do day in, day out in, when I'm mentoring students, but there's certainly personal stuff that comes into it. When we're playing the guitar, when we're learning the guitar and we're working on the guitar playing, we're not really working on the guitar, are we? We're working on ourselves. And so we always want to be going for our biggest point of leverage that's going to allow us to move forward. It's not always just looking at a chord change or looking at the mechanism of the way we're strumming. And none of this comes across in, video lessons and stuff. It's just completely absent because the individual is absent and it's just surface stuff. There's no diagnosis of the root causes of stuff. And then number 9 is actually trying to learn from a series of lessons, a series of learning that's like disconnected from each other. There's no overall structure. There's no sort of through line to the whole thing because these lessons are coming at us based on an algorithm of what the technology thinks you're going to watch the most of. Do you know what I mean? We've got some of the best, most brilliant minds in the world working on trying to show you and kind of incentivize people who make videos and stuff to be the ones that kind of spike your dopamine levels and keep you watching, because the incentive is like an advertising based kind of model. I'm sure you've seen some ads on this video. I don't have advertising turned on my channel. It's just something that the technology does. It's intentional. If they can get you to keep watching the videos and watch the next video and watch the next video, watch the next video, it doesn't matter if your guitar playing improves or develops. It matters that you're watching. It's probably why a handful of people are going, I wish this guy would just play the guitar and stop talking about playing the guitar. Because they're not interested in depth. They've been trained to just go jump from one video to one video, spike that dopamine, get that satisfaction that comes from that, and keep watching on this like little pellet dispenser. So I don't mind if you don't subscribe to my channel, you don't watch this video, you don't watch any of it, because I just want you to be able to learn and develop depth and ability with your guitar playing so that you get the confidence you want, you feel the joy from it. And having these disconnected lessons with no overall through line, no structure to them coming at you isn't necessarily the best way, the most effective way to do that. So that's mistake number 9. And that batch of actual mistakes, they're upstream to the first batch of mistakes. They're causal to a lot of them. That's where a lot of that stuff arises. So we're sitting here looking at guitar playing, thinking, why can't I do this? What's happening here? And it's not about the actual hands-on mechanics always. It's about what caused them, what left us in this situation. Why didn't we learn this when we were learning? Why have we got some way through, and then all this stuff we're still experiencing this stuff? There's always a root cause. There's always more upstream. There's always a bigger kind of lever to pull with what we're doing. And so from here, we head into a set of mistakes that are kind of mistakes because of the way we're practicing and led to do it, because of the kind of learning we're doing online with this, videos coming at us, leads to, 3 kind of mistakes that are mistakes of what we really believe about ourselves. They're kind of like mistakes in our kind of mindset about learning as a consequence. So number 10 is really to start, because of this experience, you start thinking that it's you. You start thinking that it's because of your age. Oh, maybe I've left it too late. I'm too old. I'm 60, I'm 70. I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. Oh, it's my hands. I've got big hands. They're sausage hands. I've got a touch of arthritis in the thumb. It's because of me. It's because of my poor memory. It's because I'm not someone who can do this. I don't have rhythm. I'm not musical. I didn't get the genes, I see my grandkids picking up instruments and they're doing it, and I can't do it because I'm not that kind of person. My brother got the genes, he can play. My sister did. My parents had it, but it didn't come down to me. Or were you told as a youngster, were you in that situation where they're like, okay, you sing something, all right, you go to the back and mime because you don't have it. All those kinds of things. You start to think that it's you. The mistake is to think that the problem lies with you, and that playing the guitar, doing music, is something that other people do. People who are like, got this talent that you don't have. You start thinking like that, like it's an us and them kind of situation. I'm not one of those people. I'm a logical person. I can't do music. And those mistakes, because of the format of the learning, because of the stuff that's happening on the guitar, because of the way we start to kind of think that we're responsible for not doing it, for not being able to do it yet, the mistakes really just become regrets. Like 13, we start to accept really slow progress, or that the songs we're playing and when we play is not really recognizable. We try to show your spouse and they're like, I don't know what that is. Very well done, but I don't know what that is. And we get those kinds of messages, and the mistakes turn to regrets. Like, we never develop that confidence, so that you're at a barbecue or something and your friend says, oh, you're learning to play the guitar, could you show me something? And you just make an excuse, oh, I'm just learning, anything like that. We don't reach that point where you just pick it up and just play. And so we put the guitar down. That's a mistake. We put the guitar down for longer and longer periods of time. It starts to collect dust, or we put it away, put it in a place we're not going to see it that much, because when we see it, it doesn't feel good. It's still that guitar waiting to be played. Had big dreams when I got that guitar, or when somebody got you that guitar. And finally, the biggest mistake of all, which is a consequence of all of these others, as you can see, these are accumulating, these are building up as we go because of the prior stuff, because of the root causes of it, is just quitting it. I'm never going to do it. And that doesn't feel good. So there we have it. This whole process, these mistakes, what I'm trying to articulate to you here is that they're all linked and consequences of each other, in the same way that having a clear, structured approach, personal guidance and feedback is also linked. That links to something that's much more than the sum of its parts, this kind of positive circle of progress and reinforcement of how you feel about learning, the progress you're making, the songs you're playing, which reinforces how you're practicing, how you're going about learning, and consistent progress. Versus this kind of negative flywheel that we get from this way of trying to learn, where these mistakes compound, they reinforce on each other, and we're left with a guitar in the cupboard or a guitar for sale, not feeling great about these dreams we had since we were, frankly, a little kid in some situations, and just assuming that we're the kind of person who can't do it. It becomes this kind of negative flywheel instead of a positive one. And it doesn't have to be that way. If you're between 50 and 80 years old and you've had a guitar for a few years, you've had a guitar for 20 years or more, it doesn't mean that it's you, and it doesn't mean that you can't do this, okay? So there we go. 15 mistakes for learning. If this makes sense to you, you know what I'm talking about, and you want to have a chat about potentially working together on your guitar playing, finally building the ability to play the songs that you love, even coordination to play and sing, developing confidence so that you can just play the way you want to and feel joy and pleasure from the time you spend with the guitar. Just at the bottom of this video, I'll put it in the comments. There's a link. You can book a call with me. If you want, we'll have a chat about that side of things. See you in the next video.